All right, so hey everyone, welcome back to another video. And in this video, we are going to basically talk about how you can start web development. Uh, like this, I have been doing web development content a lot, but I think I haven't covered a roadmap. No, it's not a roadmap. Uh, Basically, I want to talk about some of the misconceptions that web development had and some of the things that might help you and some of the doubts that mostly people get that is a little super crowded and all those things. It's super saturated. Maybe some things such as you just learn some of the things. You are stuck in tutorial hell. You are stuck in, you know, comparing the frameworks. This is bad, this is good, and all those things. So basically, to uh, take you out of the matrix and make yourself a better path uh, as an engineer, not as a framework kiddie. All right, so let's start. So mindset of web development should be basically you have to deliver features. Now, there are many of the things that a web developer do, or a full stack web developer do, or a full stack engineer do, not just this. All right, it's not about shipping features, it's about shipping production ready code. uh, Shipping features and shipping production ready code is entirely two different things. Because if you are a sole developer, then you can do whatever you want because it's your product. It has to work because you understand the code. But let's say you are working with a team, you basically have to follow some principles. So because that person who is like coming is also familiar with that particular thing, and then you can basically start right away. All right. So these are some of the things that I wanted to talk about. So let's start. Uh, my qualifications, because everyone talks if you are giving some things. So let me give you just three qualifications. I have won the national medal in the field of web technologies. Then I am currently a Google developer expert in the field of web technologies. And I have won Rashtriya Vaigyanik National Scientist Award. And I have also showcased it to Prime Minister of India. All right. So I think this to covers the most of the cases, because I feel if you are listening to someone, make sure they know what particular field they are in and they know in and out of that particular field. Because it if it's just because if someone is in that particular field, it's their opinion, it's their experiences, which is valid. But if let's say I'm not in DevOps, I'll make a video on DevOps. It's just going to be a bunch of articles, a bunch of crap, and a bunch of YouTube videos. All right. So make sure whenever you are listening to someone, make sure you have their qualifications right. All right, let's go ahead. Now, the first thing is JavaScript, but you may say that you have HTML, CSS. Look, HTML, CSS, it's kind of a lifelong learning process. There are many bits and pieces there. In particularly, like HTML is kind of just divs and some other things. Because in React we basically work the component. But not going too technical. It's just an introductory video. So in JavaScript, so HTML, CSS, like CSS I have been doing since 3 years, but still I'm learning CSS. So these two things are like lifelong learning process. Because the browser community or the web development community ships out multiple features every single day or some whatsoever. So yeah, so in JavaScript हमें ये क्या करना होता है? In JavaScript, we if you cut down, like JavaScript is kind of misconceived, like it's too much, but I don't think it's that big because I'm not talking about the whole web APIs. JavaScript is small in the sense of the language. JavaScript itself is really small. Because just to give you a quick intro, let's say I go to Node, and in JavaScript, let's say if you're working with web APIs, you have Canvas and all those things. Like if I show you MD and JavaScript APIs, go to a JavaScript APIs, and they're like a bunch of uh, APIs that JavaScript has. If you go to references, you go to JavaScript, and you see the JavaScript is less. But if you go to references, you go to web APIs, it's like a bunch. You aren't going to understand all the things, these all things, and you might even not use most of the things that. most of the things that you have over here. Like I haven't used edit context API at all right? I've used Canvas batching API and all those things, but I haven't used these things. So JavaScript itself is really small, so you have to make sure that you know full JavaScript. All right, full JavaScript in sense, if you like, if someone is in web development and I just ask them, hey, what's object prototyping, prototyping chaining, and all those things, promises, and all those things. So they're like, I know how to do React. How do I do this JavaScript? All right, so meta programming. So it's kind of an irony that you basically have to start with JavaScript, not with React. But most of the people are making a mistake to start with directly with React and just ignoring JavaScript. Because then they get into a war of framework kiddies. Okay, so don't be a framework kiddie. CSS is kind of close to my heart, but I already talked about CSS, like it's a lifelong learning process. I'm not giving a roadmap over here. I'm just talking about some of the things that you need to keep in mind. So to start a web development journey. Now I've already told what you have to learn and where to learn it. JavaScript. I have a post on Twitter. I have a list of topics. Just go and learn them. You will be fine with JavaScript. Next up, you have to pick up a framework in front end. Now these are all the things of front end. Now front end itself is sort of an engineering thing. Everyone thinks that front end is really easy. You just have to do make buttons and all those things, but it's not. In front end, if we don't you know make the states right, don't use sufficient protocols, APIs, and all those things, if we continuously, like, there are many cases in which front end has called the backend APIs just because some use effect hook. Not going too technical, it's just something that fires up really quick. The backend cost increases rapidly just because of that particular use effect. Or in React context, I'm giving, but in general context, a while loop just going all through the sort of APIs and calling the network request and all those things, right? So you really make sure that you are an engineer. You have follow all those principles. Some of the principles are solid, kiss, try, and all those things. Make sure your code is separable, maintainable. When to use server-side rendering, when to not use server-side rendering. How you abstract the code. Uh, how you, like, if there is feature, there is a separate file, not too many. If there is util function, make sure you're not defining everywhere. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind while developing. So these things can't be done by GPT, all those things. All right. Backend. Before that, I need to uh, get a special emphasis on the transferable skills that we have. How long is the video? Let me check once. Okay, it's already 8 minutes. Let's finish this real quick. Uh, so there are some things which are called transferable skills. Now, what happens really is people really don't care about these things because if you talk to a senior developer and you say, hey, we should use React because it's better than Angular, and you just say that it's easy, then you are really in a bad situation because he's gonna really laugh at you. There are some things called such as transferable skills. Let's say you have Angular, then you have React. What connects these two is JavaScript. Let's say you have Tailwind, Bulma CSS, and all, like bunch of CSS. What connects these all these things is CSS. All right. So if you know JavaScript well, if you know CSS well, you are going to be coding in any specific framework that's given to you. Because let's say I know the concept of let's say APIs and all those things. Before wherever I'm working today, before that I haven't wrote a single GraphQL code. All right. But here I was able to pick up really quick because I know the principles that basically on which GraphQL was built, or I know whatever my previous knowledge was. So in coding or in any IT, or let's say in any programming or any engineering, IT engineering job, computer science jobs, you basically have those past experiences and then you apply them onto current experiences to get that real quick. All right. So what helped me was these solid understanding of JavaScript, solid understanding of CSS. So I was able to pick up any framework that was given to me. All right. So I don't care about which framework is given to me. Let's say React, CSS. I don't really care. whatever framework is given to me, I'll be able to code because I know JavaScript, and the frameworks are made to make your life easier, not hard. So they are not intended to make tough. They are intended to make good code and make you all those things. Coming to the backend, now you have all done framework. There is one more thing which is called Figma. If you want to learn it, but it's mostly UI UX stuff. But yeah, it's kind of good thing because you just don't get into things because there is a saying in coding world which is think twice and code once, because you have to think many times and then you just code once, and it saves you cost and all the time as well. Now coming to the backend. Now, backend is like in front end, we basically have to think how the web browse, how the application is performing on the client's computer. So let's say whatever application this is slides.com. So if this was laggy, making a bunch of requests and all those things, hanging stuff and all, I won't be using slides.com anyway, right? But as I know that it's super cool, I'm using it. In backend as well, you have to basically save the cost. So to save the cost, there are and save the cost, and also like to save the cost, you just say, okay, I'll write in Rust, but you have to also take into account the developer ergonomics, because you are not just saving the cost, but you have to also save the time. So you just say you use Golang, but your team is not prefers Golang, they prefer TypeScript, so you go with TypeScript. But TypeScript increases the cost, so you switch some of the code base to Golang, you go to microservice architecture and all those things. So there is a bunch of things. So the main thing that every company tries to do is, the first priority is saving the cost. Second priority is the developer economics. And the third priority is saving the time, which comes under the two things, which is saving cost and developer ergonomics. So basically, shipping feature with the least cost, and to make the profits higher and higher, because you might think that coding is some sort of just coding stuff, but in coding, you're basically solving a business problem. It's not that your code is good. Nobody cares. Like, client doesn't care whatever framework, whatever language you code. You are basically have to solve a business problem. You are basically here to solve a business problem, and to solve a business problem, you have to make their profits higher, because that's how business works. Because Zomato app is is a pillar, but it's not that big pillar. Like, app just connects you and me. There are many bunch of things that going behind Zomato, behind the except the developer, which is the operation and all those things, developer and all those things. So there are many things that a startup has to do rather than just coding. I'm just telling about some of the things that you might think that the soul, the the soul of any startup is their technology. It's not. All right, it's the business value that it creates, or whatever code creates. So if your code is creating business value, then you are a like kind of an engineer or someone who is worth it, else you are not. All right, then you have to switch to a backend framework. So in the backend framework, you can like I would suggest one framework that I really liked is, and I know some of you may not like it as well, but I would have, don't have to code in it, but you have to understand Laravel. Why I'm saying this? Because I really liked the community and how they have structured their directory. Because I have applied that directory structure into many of my applications, such as if I'm coding in Python, if I'm coding in Node.js, if I'm coding in Golang, I basically apply that directory structure into my code. And for Golang, there are many uh, GitHub repositories which have a project layout for all the. So if you see here, like they have explained what is web test. So these are some of the standards or the industry standards that you have to follow. So to get so to create maintain a uniformity across the code bases. All right, databases. So I won't like Mern is good. All right, Mern is super fine, but you have to you have to make yourself separable from the crowd. All right. So one thing that I would recommend to study in databases is PostgreSQL and SQL. And I'm not, and DynamoDB as well, FlyDB. But I'm not talking about just to study the queries and how the database works. I'm basically talking about the architecture on how, okay, how MariaDB really works under the hood. How Postgres engine really. So if you go to Postgres SQL engine, maybe go to their GitHub. All right, there is the mirror of official. So you go to source. All right, and basically read all those things because I have read the whole Chrome weird engine. It was astonishing. So you have to basically read all those things like how, and if you are not reading as well, just take a lecture how PostgreSQL actually work under the hood. All right. So if I'm doing, let's say, select everything from students, how the data is fetching from that particular pool and it's coming to me, how they're doing that, how they're scaling the data. All right. If let's say I'm a developer, how that then I have a, let's say, different databases, how I scale it. Oh, there is a caching layer that's involved in it, something like that. Redis, Memcache, and all those things. Right. So these are some of the really astonishing things in the world of databases. Right, let's move ahead. Linux, so you have now front end ready, you now have back end ready. Like these are the some of the words that I have thrown at you, so you have to learn them. You have to basically experiment with them, and you have to basically make projects with them. So after you have made projects, now if you go to my GitHub account as well, there are many projects that I have created. Uh, so you can basically take one of them. You know, all of them like are and if you see some of the things, silly app for, okay, Valentine's Day, YouTube Beyond 2x. All right, so these are some of the things that you can take a feel. Don't look at the code. Make sure you make them yourself. And there is start project from scratch, make project from scratch, something like that. Make project from scratch. Just take a title because these are some of the projects that you have. So whatever you see, make clones of that, but make sure, let's see, you can make a slides.com clone, but don't look at anything. Just go to Google search, experiment stuff, and make stuff. Then you have to deploy them. So you have to learn Linux if you want to deploy them. But if you are front end, then you just front end. Then there are some of the things such as Vercel is there. Microsoft apps are there. Then you have AWS SageMaker, I guess. SageMaker, what's okay? SageMaker is for machine learning. There is something in AWS as well. AWS is Azure. Sorry, not Azure. AWS. Uh, Amazon Web Services. I use Azure a lot. Then you have Vercel, then you have Netlify as well. So to deploy them, but to deploy them, you basically have to learn GitHub. So this is one of the tools uh, that everyone loves. I love it a lot because it's kind of a time machine. Okay, so this is one of the tools that you have to learn, GitHub. I know that I have just thrown a bunch of words to you, but I hope the message is clear that you have to not just write code, you have to write good code that creates business value, not just create an e-commerce website and just do stuff. Make projects that's fun to you. All right, make projects that's really valued by you. मैं हमेशा ऐसा सोचता हूँ कि घर ऐसा बनाएंगे, लाइक मेरे मेंटर थे, उन्होंने मुझे बात कही थी कि घर ऐसा बनाना जिसमें खुद रहने का मन करे. सो मेक प्रोजेक्ट्स दैट यूड लाइक टू यूज. ऑलराइट. And the second phase is the testing. Now this is one of the skills that is often overlooked, but make sure you do this as well, because this is one of the things that no one does. All right, if there are 100 developers, only 2 or 3 or 4 developers do these things, and that makes you separable from the crowd. Okay, last step is the ownership. This is one of the qualities that no one, literally no one, can judge you uh, based on your interview. It's you after you have onboarded onto your organization. So make sure you have, whenever you are onto into some organization, you have some examples. So on whenever you give the next interview, you can basically tell these examples. So let's say you have created this project, I have taken full ownership of that. So it reflects. So if that whatever let's say job, clients, and all those things, if they see three things in you: ownership, business value, and enthusiasm, eager to learn. Like these are all the things. Even you don't have any skill, but you have these four skills. Trust me, you they have a better bet on you than someone. Like if you have 20 skills and someone has 25 skills, but you have these four qualities, then I'm damn sure you are gonna get selected, not that one. So that's it from my side. I hope the message is clear, and there are a bunch of things that you can go on to. And if you want to, like I'll drop a PDF file in which there is kind of a sequence in which you have to learn technologies. These are some of the philosophical things that I've told over you into this video. But below down, I'll link a PDF in which there is step by step. Step by step is one, two, three, whatever you have to learn in sequence. So you can actually build some projects, make something start, make something really cool. All right. So that's all for now. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, see ya. Have a good day.